Well, hello and welcome. Today I have Darryl, also known as the Ambassador. We met through an online spiritual group where we were in the boot camp together. We became friends, and I got to meet him in person this year in October at a retreat at the Joshua House. He is a very spiritual, extremely kind, generous. He's totally in service to others. He loves answering questions, and I'm just so grateful to be your friend, Darryl. Thank you for coming on today and talking with me.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. And then, yeah, I got to tell everyone that Tami is just as beautiful in person as she sounds on the air. She's just a lovely soul, and she just brightens the room whenever she walks in. So I want people to know that if they haven't met her in person. But thank you for having me on your show. So you posed a question to me, and I was thinking about you asked me like to state like 3 miracles in my life, and I like to organize and think of how to present things. So what came to me is that the 3 miracles of my life, and they actually happen in this chronological order. The 3 miracles are surviving, learning, and knowing. Now I'm going to go and explain why I mean that. The first miracle in my life is that I survived my adulthood. It was not an easy journey. I gotta say that I came from a very very poor immigrant family. We had 5 kids, and just to give you an example of how poor we were was that my best friend's mother was a alcoholic prostitute on welfare, and she kicked me out of the house, well, of my playmate's house, because I was too poor. you gotta have some humor about that, right?
Wow.
And then, when I like asked my father about it, he told me, "Yeah, we're too poor to have friends." Yeah. My father was very harsh, and that was very kind of typical of the wisdom he would give me as a child. And honestly, he set up a lot of difficulties in my life. But at this point, I realized that they were all lessons and very valuable. And I knew at an early age that I would ask, whenever I got myself into a difficult position, I would ask myself, what would my father do? And then I would do the opposite. And that's been my guiding light of helping me, through my childhood, and, to grow and prosper kind of like in spite of some difficulties. The childhood was rough. The childhood was really rough. I'm going to give you one more of my favorite quotes from my father. And that is when I came out of the closet to him, because I'm gay, he, in front of the family, kicked me out of the house and told me, why couldn't we have given birth to a mass murderer? That way we'll throw you in jail and be done with you. But that's the type of harshness.
That's true love there.
That's true love there.
Oh.
And those are events in my childhood that it was tough at the time, but that does it teaches you lessons. It teaches you. At the time, you don't like it, but in hindsight, everything was perfect, and everything helped me to lead me to where I am. So I embrace now even the most difficult of backgrounds, because I know it was all for my own good, and it led me to where I am. So as you can imagine, my childhood was not easy, but then going into my adulthood got even rougher. And I'll say that because I I met the love of my life in my 20s, and he was, throughout my childhood, it was like, oh, just give me one person to love that I can love and build a life with. And it's like, okay, God interrupted, and we'll square away my childhood, and we'll call it even. All I want is just someone to love. And I will say that I met that person in my early 20s. That person was named Ramon, and from the day I met him, we just had this instant click. We just spent the whole night just talking. And he was actually supposed to be a one-nighter, and I was moving back to San Francisco. But then the minute I met him, I spent pretty much every day with him throughout. It was just kind of like a love story out of a book. It was just meant to be. And we every day we spent together, we just kind of loved each other more and more and more. It was just unbelievably fantastic. I'll just put it that way. And then one day he came home from working at the gym. I was working at the gym. He came home and he told me that the doctors told him that he had leiomyosarcoma and he had 6 months to live. And I thought, you know what, we'll get through it. I thought, you know what, we will get through it. We'll make this work. And it's like, love will make everything all right. And he fought the cancer for 3 years. He did 7 operations, and each time they had to take a part of his stomach and liver out. So you can do the fractional math. And toward the end, he did not want to do any more operations, but he did it for me because I could not survive without him. If he would have died too soon, I would have followed him. I just could not live without him. And then one night, he put his arms around me, and when I woke up in the morning, he was gone. It took me about 10 years of mourning and grief to get over it. And you can't ever get over it, but to get to a functional spot. I mean, I literally wore sunglasses for 10 years because I did not want people to see me crying on the streets. I was that much in mourning that I could not process it. It was like being in a world where you could not breathe. It was just so unfathomable to me about death and how he could be dead and I alive. And it was like your brain could not register. It was like living without breathing. It was just that grief that was just unbearable. And that was the hardest part to survive in my adult life. And that's why I say it was a miracle for me to survive my adulthood. And that takes me up to 4 years ago. 4 years ago, he actually came to me. I know people are going to say, "Oh, well, this probably believe it," but he came to me and he said, "You know what? Start living your life he told me that basically he wants me to enjoy life, and that whenever I'm smiling and being happy, that's what he sees and feels. He does not want me to mourn, and that's not the energy that he wants. He wants me to be happy. And at that point, it's like, okay,
a total shift in your perspective.
Correct. It was unbelievable, but just the message just kind of rang true. And it's like, it's like, okay, you did, 57 years of effort and struggle, mourning, grief. And I worked hard. I mean, when he died, I just worked day and night, and I do public health work, so it was easy for me to channel all my energy into that, and work 24/7 and stuff like that, because it was like for the services of others. But I gotta tell you that even though it was for the service of others, it was not fun. It was long hours reading legislation and doing a lot of stuff that's like, I'd rather not be doing this, but I worked very, very hard. But when he came to me 4 years ago, he said, enough of this, you need to have fun. He said, there's so much love in you that you're just wasting it by not letting it out. And at that point, I just heard his message and I retired.
I agree with him. I'm so grateful. I don't know. It's just hard to put it into words, but you're one of the most loving, kind people I've ever met. I mean, it just radiates out of you, and just lots of random acts of kindness for everyone. And that we don't live close to each other, but I saw that, and we spent the weekend together, and it was just unimaginable, wasn't it? And I said, now I know that we've only met on Zoom calls, but the kindness that you exhibit, in your energy is so bubbly and loving, and I've heard some of the stories about like your dad and your partner. I think that's one of the fears people have, when they get our age. They say, I'm 61. It's I'm afraid to love again because, I'll have to go through the struggle. But you really never completely lose anyone. They just transition. You still have access to them. You have the memories. You have all the loving parts of the relationship and the growth. Like, you just went through a lot of growth because you had these people in your life, and you chose a better path than your father did, and that was to be a loving, kind person. So thank you for doing that. I'll have to say, I see it.
Oh, well, thank you
and
for
feel
saying
it.
that. Yeah. I do want to say something about grief, because hopefully it would help. And that is, for 10 years after my partner passed, I was the king of pain. I was the king of grief. And part of it was that it was my twisted thinking that to show my love for him, I will grieve for him and I would never forget him. And it was out of kind of respect for him, I was hanging on to that grief. But what he told me, and what I know now, is you don't show your love by sadness and sorrow and grief. You show your love by being happy and remembering your happy times. That's how you show your love, and that's what they want. And also, P.S., they never leave you. Even after they pass, they're always with you. They're always with you whenever you're happy. They're even with you when you're sad, although that's low vibration and that's not their thing after they pass. But they really, really are there to celebrate you and to make you happy and to support you. And there's nothing more in the world that they want than for you to be happy. So all those people who are grieving, I know how it feels, but just really know that the person or pet that you're grieving about really wants you to be happy, really wants to show you, they really want you to show your love for them by being happy, not by being sad and miserable and crying on the streets, like I was doing. They want you to be smiling, happy, show your love, because that's what makes them happy, is you being happy. So I just wanted to put out that 2 cents for people who are going through the grieving process, is that really show your love for that person or pet by being happy and remembering the good times, and just knowing that they're always with you, and their top priority is for you to be happy.
Yes, that is a love-based way to view loss, and they transition, and energy just transmutes. I've actually had a couple of one of my friends, her deceased husband came in, and she was getting married, and she was really worried about it. And for some reason, he sent a message to me, and it was, he was just sitting and watching her play with flowers and getting married, and she was in a wedding dress, and he was happy that she was living life and moving on. And, that's not the way we're traditionally taught. But, a loss like that is difficult, because we tend to want to plan our life out, and it's got to be exactly the way we want it to go. And then it goes, the train goes sideways, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then you have to be alone, and I think that's one of the biggest fears that even I've had I have a big family, lots of kids, but being alone, or the fear of being lonely is another giant fear. So, when you have a great relationship, it is, you just feel like you can't replace that. But yet being alone is not being connected. And I've seen one of your growth areas in the last few months that I've known you is connecting with others. So even though you're retired, you get out with your dog, you make friends, you do kind things for your neighbors. I know you shovel snow and do lots of things for people. And also, you've been to the retreats now at the Joshua House. And so you get out of your comfort zone a little bit more now, don't you?
Yeah, no, I mean, originally, see, the deal was that my partner was the beautiful, gregarious person. He was the one that, okay, let's go to the party. All of our friends are basically his friends. I'm the kind of, I'm not shy, but I'm not gregarious. And I don't like going to parties because, quite frankly, I don't like talking chit chat. I like talking serious stuff. And you can't really do that at parties. So, but my partner was gregarious. He got us invited to all the parties and stuff like that. So I would just like tag along because he wanted to go along. So when he passed, I just said no to parties or anything for like 10 years, because it's like, that's his category. And that's one thing great about meeting Joshua and meeting folks, is that I pushed myself, and going to the retreat was really the first time. It's actually been 22 years since he passed that I went to an optional social event. I mean, I would go to a social event, it was for work and stuff like that. I could mingle and stuff like that if I had to, but it's not my enjoyment. So going to the Joshua retreat was actually the first time in 22 years that I went to an optional social event where it wasn't pressure by family or work to do. And I just found it amazing. It was like, oh, I'm enjoying this. It was just really amazing going and meeting people.
It is. And when you spend days with people and you're eating and sharing and talking, and it is kind of, you can talk serious there too, or about subjects you're interested in. Now, how long would you say you've been on your spiritual path? and what are the most significant things that helped you?
I went on my spiritual path 4 years ago when my partner, deceased partner, came to me and I retired. At that point, I said, what the fuck are you going to do? You don't have to work 24/7. You're going to work all the time. You know, what are you going to do? And I just stumbled onto reading books. And that's why, you know, the second miracle of my life is learning. Is that at that point in time, it's when I really started reading books. I mean, I used to read legislation and stuff like that, but it was for work and it was boring as hell. This was the first time in my life that I got to read books that I wanted to read, and they weren't for work. You know, and then it was like a whole new world, because what I found that I like is I like reading about esoteric stuff. And I'm not religious. I was not, you know, brought up religious. But then when I started reading about spiritual books, it's like, this makes sense to me. And then you learn about things that have been written for centuries and centuries, and they're all about esoteric knowledge and spiritual stuff. And I can go through like 3 or 4 books a week. You know, I'm talking about really, you know, thick ones that take people like months to go through, because I love it. I mean, it's fascinating and entertaining. And once you get into these esoteric books about knowledge, everything is connected and everything reinforces each other. Meaning that you can read an author, you know, 4 centuries ago, or you can read a channeler's book that's produced last month, and they are topics that intertwine and interconnect, and that verifies itself. I mean, anything that's true, it's always true. And once you start one topic, they're all related. Everything, spirituality, quantum physics, everything is, you know, they're all related. And if you get that high vibrating true knowledge, they all support each other. And it's just amazing. I mean, you know, we can talk about any topics about like self-healing, you know, dimensions and densities, everything. Quantum physics are all related.
That's right. I know your favorite topics are quantum physics and the Law of One, the books. So channeling and spirituality, which I like that too. I mean, I'm all into esoterics and mysticism and spiritual leaders. You know, those things were the most interesting to me. And I was like you when I retired. I read a lot, and then I got on in groups and started going to retreats, and I just found that I understood more when I interacted with other people, because most of the channelers are just like us. And then you see, and then you also began to channel, right?
Yes. So I mean, so that's a great segue into the third miracle of my life, which is knowing. So before we get there, I want to round up the topic of learning. So learning, everything that we learn in books, that I learned in books the past 4 years, they were based off of logic and what made sense. And every single book I would read, I would go through it and say, okay, what can be wrong? Or, you know, I'll try to look for something that's wrong, because, you know, anything that's right should be airtight. And every book I read is with this logic mind of Newtonian physics and how it has to make order according to Newtonian physics and the things that we know, that we can see, touch, hear, and verifies scientifically by data and observation. You know, so it was all that linear thinking, and you know, that we're all kind of brainwashed to think that way since a little kid. So that, you know, that started 4 years ago, and I gotta say that it was fine, perfect, everything was great, and I'm still learning. But I took on a new phase recently, and the third miracle of my life is I just know things. I just, it's called clear cognizance. It's the art of knowing something without knowing how you know it. That's the definition of it. And that's kind of like the phase that I'm in. Or the miracle of my life right now is that I just know things. And I know things that are true. I don't know how I know it. I just know it. It just kind of comes to me, and some of it is through like memories of the thousands of books I've read. But the knowledge, whenever I ask a question, it just flows to me, and I know these answers that I probably shouldn't know, and I don't know how I know it, but I know it. So that's kind of like the third miracle that I'm in right now of my life. Is just this phase of knowing and enjoying it, and and still learning, but also knowing at the same time that it's real, or at least in my little bubble world, it's real. So yeah.
Well, knowing that is that's powerful. That's being connected in the oneness to all that exists. All knowledge is available once you get to a certain level. I don't know if you.
I mean, do you want to talk about the law of one? I mean, because that is
it's up to you. I did. Now there is one thing I wanted to go to: the body, mind, spirit. Joshua was talking about that today, so I think that part. I do want to say that I feel like you have to have the body, mind, and spirit kind of working together, all as one unit. And I know that, so you work out at the gym. Do you do you do meditation? What else do you do, like on your spiritual path, that you felt like might have?
Well, I mean, the way I think about that is that it's coherence, right? It's coherence of you need all 3 points to connect to each other. So you have your mind, which is your consciousness. You have your body, which is your body, but then you can also consider it your DNA, because we're talking about activating DNA. But yes, it's your DNA, but it's also your body, because if your body is hurting and pain, you can't connect to your mind and meditate because you're hurting and pain. So all 3 have. So those are 2, and then the other one's the spirit. The spirit is basically your inner self and your higher self. So you need your personality mind connected to your physical body, connected to your inner self. And when all 3 of those points are in coherence, meaning that they're all clapping together, right? Because they all clap at different rates, but if you get them all clapping together, then you get a power that's beyond what we know of in Newtonian physics. You get a power that taps the infinite quantum field, because all 3 of those are in coherence and clapping together. It just hits a vibration where you can tap the quantum field, and that's where you get all the knowledge that's in the universe and all the power that materializes material, so that can change molecules, and can change not only molecules in your body but outside in your world. It's the quantum field. It's the thing that the universe is made out of. So I agree and stress you got to get coherence of all 3, because if one of them's off, it's not going to fire up to the quantum field. So think about it like, if your mind is not there and you can't reach that meditated state, then your body could be in perfect shape, and your inner self could be, hey, let's talk. But then if your mind consciousness is like, oh shit, no, I got to get work, or I don't like the way that person looked at me, your mind's not going to be in that peaceful, connective, coherent state. Vice versa, your mind could be in the perfect meditation state, and your inner self is like, oh, come on, baby, let's talk. But then your body could be like, in pain, and it's like, I don't want to meditate, so I'm, it's not going to let you be in coherence. So you got to get all three lined up and clapping together, which is hard because they're like different, phases that are in different areas. But if you can get all three to line up, that's when you can tap the quantum field, and you can tap all the information, past, present, and future, that's out there, and you can tap the things, the power source that materializes matter.
Mm. Before we move on, and we can talk about the Law of One, I wanted to ask you, some people call it the inner self. And it's funny, when I do energy sessions, sometimes I see the inner being, but you call it the higher self. Now, it's a higher self from the future?
Yes, actually, if you really want to get technical to it,
Go ahead.
your higher self is you about, roughly 30 billion years in the future that has had all these experiences. It's technically, I believe, in the 7th density. On Earth, we're in the 3rd density, but technically, your higher self, I think it's like, that part of you that's 30 billion years in the future that has progressed throughout the higher densities and is now at the 7th density. And it's just looking back at you, it's like, okay, that's me, 30 billion years ago. What information do I want it to learn? I mean, it agreed to your life and planned your life that you're living now. And when you in the 3rd density, your personality self is tapping into your higher self, you're saying, okay, you planned this life. What do you want me to do? I'm just gonna, bow down to you and understand that I am living the life that you pre-planned for me to live. So I'm going to take the directions from you, and I'm going to cherish my ego and personality self because it's a useful tool to help me survive. But the real person in charge, the real being in charge, is the higher self, which is kind of quiet and taciturn, but it's really the one that is sitting on the throne. It's not the ego self that's sitting on the throne.
And if you can hear it, you have to listen, and you have to, be in, like you said, you have to be coherent. Now, and we went through some energy activations, and I did an energy healing on 15, 16 people. Well, your Merkabahs were spinning, which indicated to me that you were like a clear vessel, that, you had Merkabahs spinning, but you had a giant triangle at your feet that looked like a portal. So that was really interesting. And it's really funny how different everyone looks, because I get auditory, visual, and then I get symbols for each person. So, and some are delightful. It was really, that was a really interesting experience, because I've never done that many people in one setting. And then, some people were in a lot of resistance, and that's what I see. They're just in a lot of resistance. They're still living the way they were programmed to live. And that's a process of letting go. So that's an interesting way. And once I usually connect with someone like that, then I get more messages later on. And so that was really interesting. And the angelic, or the light language, or the other types of language, but it's the soul language that people speak. And do you speak? I know you do, but do you want to talk about the languages you speak?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to tell the audience that what you just described was that we went through an activation at Joshua's retreat. And during that activation, I found out new things that I thought were fascinating. So one of the things that Tami is talking about is that it came out that, well, I'm just going to say it, is that I'm 100% extraterrestrial, which means that, so I come out of the closet twice now, right? Once being gay,
Wow.
now for being extraterrestrial. And that this is actually my vacation, because normally I am the ambassador. And what that means is that there's a organization that's called the Intergalactic Federation. And I think that when I'm not on Earth, I think that I'm the ambassador to that, which actually makes total sense to me now. And then also another person during that activation told me that, this is a vacation for me. The past, 57 years, I lived a life that was perfectly planned. It went everything according to the way I planned it. It's like, really, I planned my father, but okay, and it was perfectly planned. And the person told me that now's the time for me to show my true self, and to enjoy life, to be fun. So it really kind of worked out. It's really coming true. I mean, I just, since the activation, I just feel so much openness and love for people, and I just feel like I want to share it. But thank you for the information about the Merkabahs and stuff like that, and the signs and stuff. And also during my activation, Christy said she's never seen 4 people with 4 different languages come up. And so evidently, once I remember, I'll remember how to speak 4 different intergalactic language. I know that one is Dragos. I know one is angelic. And I actually know that one is with the finger things, because I actually recently, like two nights ago, had a dream. And I remember I was talking 3 different languages. And then I woke up and I go, was that a dream? And it's like really weird because I was speaking 3 different languages. And so it's coming through to me now. But I can't interpret yet, but hopefully I will in the future. But right now it's just kind of like fun. It's just like fun and fascinating. So I'm having a ball.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're a starseed, I've actually been listening to light language, and I've sung it before, but I had this limiting belief that I'm not a great singer. Everyone in my family is singers but me. And they tell me not.
I heard you sing. You're a great singer. I heard you during the activation. And you have a beautiful voice. So yeah.
Well, that was, I've been writing it, for scribbling and drawing these symbols for years, but I actually did it a couple of years ago. So it's been 2 years since I've been doing it. But recently I was listening to some other light language, and I saw the Merkaba spinning in front of me. So anyway, I feel like,
and Merkabahs are basically energy sources. That's
yes,
energy kind of vortex, and they're made by tetrahedron.
So it was a starseed language that was very interesting to me. So I've just been singing around the house, because that's the way to do it, is to just sing it, just to start singing around the house, because you have to start somewhere.
Correct. And not care what anyone thinks. I mean, when it first comes out, you actually kind of feel a little pushing in your throat. And it's like your natural language wants to come out. And because we're, brainwashed as humans to, oh no, I can't do that, or that looks silly, we don't let it out. And, the thing to do is don't care what other people think. Just let it out, because that's your natural you. And just sing with joy and fun, because that's what we're here to be.
Yeah. Well, it was Arcturian that set me on fire. But I love the Dracos and Chris's voice, and I get chills like when certain people speak, and there were several that spoke there. And but anyway, and then there were a couple of people that as I was touching their energy gate, which is the same as a chakra, a similar idea or concept, I would feel the vibration and the humming, and it, it's just blocked. It's just fear, and you just let it go. So once you do it, it's like you can just sing all the time. So,
Yeah. I mean, you told me something very interesting during my activation was that all my chakras were firing up. And what was very interesting about that was that prior to that, I went to the QLT and they told me, no, your root chakra is blocked. And the reason behind it, root chakra, the red one, is it's survival needs. So because I had a rough life and childhood, maybe I was blocked. I mean, that's your foundation, experiences. So since the QLT, I did meditations. I listened to the hertz that unblocks it. So by the time I went to the activation, that's why all my chakras were unblocked. And it was very reassuring for me to hear you tell me that they were all unblocked because it made sense. Because previously it was blocked, and then I did work for about four months, and it was just nice to hear, and I felt it. It was unblocked because during the activation, it was just a flow of energy. I can feel it. I could actually feel energy downloading from the quantum field, and during the next day, my role was just basically to download energy and be a lighthouse for and give it out to anyone who wants it. It was just very clear to me that the next day that was just kind of my purpose, just to be, I don't mean to sound corny, but just a lighthouse of love and just shine it, and anyone who wants it can have it. And if they don't want it, that's cool too. I'm just going to be my lighthouse and just shine it.
It's very powerful. And once that's the thing is you can, all the work you've done, working on your limiting beliefs, through the Joshua program and meditations and energy sessions, I think they just kind of build on top of each other. And, you can block them again, but you know how to unblock them now. So it is, source energy is pure, and it feels really good, and sharing it feels good. And I think there were several of us that really got that. And it intensified, but I was seeing more energy than I've ever seen, because I've always felt it, and I have a sensory, a lot of sensory inputs, but I was actually seeing a lot more energy during those sessions. So I know they work. I know they're very powerful. And, so just, I would recommend doing it. I'd say she's got a gift. I know Christy's got a gift, and she can unlock.
Yeah. I mean, I will tell you that, I've read hundreds of books from channelers, and some of them do activations and attunements. They're all different. They're all different forms of energy, and they all work. But I gotta tell you, the one that I got from Christy was, and you and Gary and everyone around that activation was just unbelievable. It's like, activations on steroids. It was just so powerful.
Well, to have four, she and I were talking about that, to have four energy healers in one room doing that work, that it really was powerful, I have to say. Unplanned and unimaginable and powerful. So
and delightful.
It was. Well, all of them weren't delightful, but most, I think that people will find them unimaginably delightful in the end. Yeah.
I mean, in terms of learning, I just want to say for folks, it's not a gradual curve, it's an exponential curve, in that when you're learning something that's linear, but when you start knowing, your knowledge goes like this. In that, I mean, another way to explain it is that the last 4 years of learning and, the hard way, reading, struggling, what's logic, 4 years of that, I can now do that in 1 month just because I know it's true. I don't have to spend energy to challenge the knowledge and to prove that, look for the fault in it. I just know it's true. So when you know it's true, you don't have to waste time on playing devil's advocate for something that you know is true. So right now, I'm kind of at the stage of knowing. So when I know, I can just absorb a lot more information because I don't have to have that doubter in my mind say, oh, prove it false, or I won't believe it. I just know it's true. So with that, my knowledge now can just take off and just, kind of have a quantum leap because I know it's true. I don't have to waste energy trying to look for why it's not true. So your one's experiences will really grow in an exponential growth, and that's what Gary says is like the unimaginable, because we're going at a rate and a speed that you just couldn't imagine in the past when you were effort and struggling and reading all the books and looking for the faults and stuff like that. You're now going at a place where, for me, when I hear it, I know if it's true. I know it, when it's true or when it's not. So I don't have to waste time on all that 90% stuff that used to take a lot of time. Now I just know it and I can absorb it. Next, and it's fun. It's really a lot of fun.
So you're answering questions for people. I find those very interesting too. So how are you interested in other people, or are these are just your friends sending you questions now, or how are they contacting you?
Yeah, they're friends that just know my email, and if you know my email, you can send me a question and I'll answer. What I've been doing now is that because a lot of people have been coming to me with questions, and a lot of them are similar topics, it just wasn't efficient for me to answer the same thing to 10 different people when they're all about the same topic. So what I do right now is I just take a question and then I answer it and I send it to a group, so that everyone gets the answer at once. So I just found that that's kind of a fun and efficient way to spread the information and knowledge. And, and I love it. I think it's like really just fun to do it.
I will have to say, well, today you talked about angels and archangels, which, is one of my things. I love angel magic, and I've been calling in angels for years, and that is how I do my work. I call them in, they assist me. So the thing is, at the bottom you put, I had an interesting experience with Metatron. So here is my question. What was that?
Okay, I'm not going to answer that because I already wrote out the answer and I'm going to send it out to the list of folks tomorrow. So,
Okay.
I don't want to preempt that, but
well, I can hold this off for a day or two. I can put
okay.
I can put my episode out, Monday or whatever. I'm in charge of that.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing. In the email that I'm going to send out, I'm going to explain the whole origins of Metatron. So you'll get that, which is a pretty good eye opener. And then at the very end of it, I'm going to describe the personal experience I'm going to describe is that when I was starting to be clear, cognizant, which is knowing everything without knowing why you know it, I asked myself, who's teaching me? Or who's helping me? Because I'm learning stuff that I really shouldn't be learning. And so it's like, okay, so so I just asked, okay, who's teaching me? And the answer that I got was Metatron. And when I said back to Metatron, I said, oh, no. that sounds too powerful and condescending, and it's like that's it just sounds too condescending and powerful. It's like no, I don't want to call you Metatron. I said I'm gonna call you Little Bunny Fufu, because if I call you Little Bunny Fufu, I'm gonna smile every time I talk to you, because Metatron sounds too pretentious to me. And so I thought, I'm gonna call you Little Bunny Fufu, and then Metatron said back, okay. so that's my code word for Metatron, is that it's Little Bunny Fufu for me.
Okay. Well, I've actually had him come in when I was doing ayahuasca, but he just downloaded some information and then that was it. But he's one of the angels I call on, because I call on 6 archangels. And the thing that I normally see is I don't always get visuals, but normally what I see is like they look like a star to me. And some may have a face or whatever, but mostly that when I see, when I call on the angels, that's what I saw was, it looked like a star. It didn't look like a very human thing to me.
So my understanding of it is that they are just all light energy at a certain dimension and stuff like that. And they're actually at a vibration that's so fast and so higher than ours that that's why they can't appear in the physical. But they can lower their density so that they can communicate to us, and they can even try to make an appearance. They will make the appearance based off of what you are comfortable with, because they love you so much that they're willing to lower their density and put on what I call a tar suit or costume in order to appear to you. They love you that much that they're willing to do that. So it's basically they're going to appear to you in whatever way is comforting to you. So if you want to see them with big wings and the robe, they can do that. If you want to see them more true to their essence of light, or a geometrical shape, because everything in the universe really is the alpha tetrahedron. It's a geometrical shape, and so they can appear to you that way. But if you want the full flesh costume with the big wings, they can do that too, because they love you that much and they're willing to do that. But really, they and us, we're all light energy. We're all energy. We're really not our bodies. So
that's how they show themselves to me, is in it. Now Raziel did come and he was wearing a costume.
Okay.
And but
he did that for you.
Yeah, that's the only one. And now I've had other visions of other things. I'll say, I think Michael recently, after the retreat, I had he looked like a warrior to me. But so it's part of your imagination, how you want to see them.
It's what you're comfortable with. They love you so much that they're willing to manifest according to you, according to your belief system, and according to what would make you comfortable with them. They're just love, and they want to do whatever is best for you. So that's why they will take whatever form.
Yeah, and it's as simple as asking them. I of course I have to do the things that are interesting. I have to use magic and mystics and play and all that. But it's about it's usually about asking, and then they will come and help you. And that, I was just taught.
They love it. They love it. That's their purpose.
They love. Their purpose is to love and to assist. And
but then because we have free will, we have to ask. They won't come unless you ask, because they'll be violating free will. It'll be like infringement if they butt in without you asking. So everyone hearing this, you need to ask for help and ask for what you want, because that's how you're going to get it. You're not going to get it unless you ask for it, because they're showing you respect and free will of not entering until you ask, because that's your free will to ask.
That's right. And that is another thing that many light workers don't understand, is that you have to allow the help to come too when it shows up. I think that's one step that many people that are super kind, is that they don't always reach out to other people and to the angels, or you can call in anyone, because everything exists everywhere all at once in the
Right.
quantum field, and that's the concept of oneness. I feel like they've always helped me, and I've always called on them, but I didn't practice it as much. Now it seems I've shifted more in the last 5 years. Service to others is mostly, now I call on them to help others, and it's rapid, and it's really helpful. So thank you for expressing that, because I think the angelic realm is just beautiful. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and once they show up, then you release all your doubts about it, and you know how beautiful it feels, and it is. And they can really help you raise your perspective, your vibration, your they can help with any area of your life that you're having difficulty with. And I don't know, do you want to add anything else?
That's what they're existing for. And also, you go with this, that they are also you. So, because we're all one and we're all connected, they are a divine spark of original consciousness, of the original love source, just as you are. We're all sparks of that original source of love. And they are you and you are it. I mean, we're all connected and we're all one. So you're really asking yourself for help, right? I mean, everything, whenever you're asking an angel, you're asking yourself for help, because we're all connected. Whenever you're helping someone else on the street, you're actually helping yourself, because they are you too. We're all one. Just like you are the angel, you are also the person on the street. You are also original source. You are also your past life. You are also your current life. You are also your future life. We're all connected and we're all one.
And I know that's one of the major concepts in the Law of One. And I don't know if, I think we've kind of touched on a lot of, we talked about free will. We talked a little bit about service to self. You can talk about the ascension under the Law of One, I think, or the harvest. That might be the only area that we haven't really touched on.
Yes. We are there was an ascension process about 3,000-4,000 years ago, but then very few people made that ascension process. And by ascension process, what I'm defining that is that they were raised from a third dimension human being into a fourth dimension being. At the earlier harvest, like 3,000 years ago, there was just a handful of people who did it, who raised their consciousness to that fourth dimension by being love and understanding that. And you think about it, like 3,000 years ago, that is true, because we didn't have mass communication the way we have right now. That maybe if you were a priest that studied all your life, you were able to do that. But then they were far and apart and they couldn't share information. and there wasn't technology like we have today to share information. So just a few, I don't know, maybe a few dozen people at that time frame were able to make that ascension process. There was very little harvested, meaning graduating from third density to fourth density. Now we're currently in this phase where it's the new Earth, where there's a bunch, this time around, there's going to be a bunch of us that are moving from third density to fourth density. And you think about it, how this all makes sense, because now we have technology, we have, we're able to fly all over the world. You're able to read books that were written thousands of years ago about ascension and topics like this. And you're able to now hear channelers that are bringing in information. So all these new factors that are happening in today's society is going to be making it so that this time there's going to be a big harvest. There is going to be a big ascension for folks. Many folks are going to move from third density beings into fourth density beings. That's what's meant by the harvest. And by a harvest, you're basically are the folks that are knowing about the law of one. Because once you know about the law of one, that we're all one, that's gonna, once you understand that, that's gonna shift you to the fourth density, because you know that we're all connected, you know, we're all one. I mean, all the problems in this world right now would go away if we did not believe in separation. Think about it. All the problems that we have on this earth right now is because we believe in separation. We believe that our neighbor is separate than us, is not us. We believe that country there is not us. We believe, you know, and that's why we war with other countries, because we believe in separation. We think that they're not us. That's why we fight our neighbor, because we think they're not us. If we realize that separation is an illusion, that we're all one, we would not be warring with another country. We would not be fighting with our neighbor. We would understand that we're all one. So if we understood that, humanity will ascend from the third density into the fourth. But until the collective consciousness of society understands that, there's just going to be groups of us that ascend from third density to fourth. You know, so that's where we're in right now, is that in this time of Earth history, this new ascension process or harvest is the biggest that was ever. This is, you know, I mean, don't quote me, this is like hundreds and thousands of years of Earth's evolution that we're going to have such a massive harvest of beings understanding the law of one, and then going from third density beings into fourth density beings. It's a beautiful time. It's that time that was frankly written in history thousands of years ago that this will happen, and it will happen during the age of Aquarius, and we're in the age of Aquarius now. And you know, it's also foretold that during the age of Aquarius, that's when we're going to have now the balancing of male and female energy. The past few thousand years, it's been male-dominated energy, which is aggression and separation and logic. Now we're going to move, and female has been more intuition, peace, and loving society. Well, you know, the previous thousands and hundreds of years, it was the male energy. You know, let's conquer, divide, separation. Let's shove the female energy aside. You know, yeah, so now it's been foretold that in the age of Aquarius, we're going to have the balancing of male and female energy. Neither are wrong or right. It's just the balancing that makes the optimum, you know, thing. So now in the age of Aquarius, we're going to see the female energy rise to the proper half that it should take, and that's what we're seeing beginning now. But this was foretold in literature and tablets that were written thousands of years ago and prophesied. And now is the time of Aquarius, and now is the time of harvest. Because you think when that happens, that's when a lot of people are going to be harvest or graduate from the third density into the fourth density.
Mhm. Yeah, I see it. I see it in society and in groups. I think there's a lot more spirituality. There's a lot more, information about all these things. A lot more channelers. So, I see it emerging, and I've seen visions of it too, Darryl. In fact, I've told a couple of people I saw like a vision of source, and then all the people on the planet were just lighting this, like we were all becoming like earth angels, that we lit up all over the planet. So I actually saw a vision of that several years ago. I didn't get a date, but I saw that, and it was, a very peaceful feeling, like a lot more loving, joyful planet. So, well, we've been going a little over an hour, so until we talk again, I appreciate everything you talked about today. And I always see your face, and I see your smile. So thank you for being such a kind, loving person, Darryl.
Yeah, well, I'm going to leave with one final note, and that's the final note of my deceased partner when he came to me 4 years ago. And he said, live your life in joy, be happy, be happy. And that's the final note that I want folks to know, is that just be happy. That's the purpose of your life, to be happy and to raise your vibration, and just be happy and have joy.
Well, thank you. That was perfect.
Thank you, Tami.